The Giants news of the day, which has kind of taken the lead here, which is that not only did they make a free agent signing, it is a sought-after free agent, one of the top 10 or 15 on the board for sure. It's a lot of money. It's 6 years, $113 million. It's a guy who's only 25 years old and is now expected to take over center field for the foreseeable future and maybe the leadoff spot for the Giants in the lineup. The bottom line, whether he is good, bad, or otherwise, I know none of us have seen him play, but this was one of their top targets. The Giants went into free agency, and Shohei and Yamamoto and Jung-Hoo Lee, these were their top three targets, and obviously they didn't get target one, which they talked a lot about. Farhan on a conference call today. We'll have some more on that in a second. Number two is still out there, and number three is a Giant. And the offseason is really just getting started, and so I think that this is both the physical side of it in terms of like the baseball player and then the emotional side of it, which is the message this sends to the fans. Look, to me, this is a big win today. It's a big win.
It's a definite win in terms of fans like myself who've been skeptical of Farhan Zaidi and whether or not he could or would or will sign any player to a long-term deal for a figure that is north of nine figures, $100 million. And now he's done it, in theory. Now, this is not official. Farhan Zaidi didn't confirm that it's happening in his press conference call today, his conference call, and it's probably because he is waiting for the player to pass a physical. And we've seen this before.
The Dodgers didn't confirm Shohei until about an hour ago.
Right. Yeah. And so the Giants won't confirm this until they have the player pass a physical, and he's coming off ankle surgery from about 4 months ago. So it's no guarantee that he passes the physical. You would hope that this is not a Carlos Correa redo and a player comes in and he fails the physical and all the rest of it. But until that happens, I won't fully put it in the bank, but knowing what we know about the signing being done in principle, it's big. And it's big even if the player doesn't turn out to be as good as we all hope that he is. It's big because Farhan's done it, and I give him his flowers. It's a player for 6 years, and it's $113 million. It's a commitment, and it's something that they've been unable to do, and we don't have to retry all of the different reasons why they've failed in the past. This time, it looks like they've succeeded. Pending him actually signing on the dotted line and passing a physical. Farhan Zaidi, you sly fox, you've done it. Congratulations, because this is what fans have been waiting for.
Yeah, and I know he's not the big fish, although maybe he'll become that. Well, we don't know how he's going to perform when he gets here. But, again, the messaging standpoint, it's funny that this happened within our show today because I literally started off the show, and one of the things we were talking about, and I'll admit, look, this is me. This is on me to not be bothered by this, but I get bothered by this because it's not, for me, it's not even just about Giants baseball. The idea out there, and I've heard this from so many people, not just on our show, not just on social media, man on the street stuff. I have heard so many times over and over, nobody's coming here. And tucked in there, I understand the aspect of it of people going, I got no faith in Farhan to get it done. That I get. But tucked into there, at least it feels to me, is somebody saying the Bay Area's gone downhill, the Giants organization is a clown show, like the standing within the United States map is in theory, in some of your minds, way lesser than. And I don't have that perception. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one who just can't get the flowers out of his eyes. I don't know. But when I look at all the baseball teams out there, if I grant you, sure, the Dodgers looks like a better situation right now. The Braves, Phillies, these are better baseball situations. But when you're going to go sign a 6, 7, 8, 9-year, 10-year deal somewhere, it goes way deeper than that. What's your roster today? It's way deeper than that. It's the structure of your minor league system. It's the ballpark. It's the city. It's the fan base, the popularity. It's the money. It's all of those things. And so I've gotten to the point of being like really kind of bothered when people are like, no one's coming here. And for me, today, this dispels that because this guy had choices now. He had a lot of choices. He had few teams really hot after his services.
And we'll see what those other offers were.
Yeah.
I'm sure those details will come out. But knowing that he's a Scott Boras client, it doesn't surprise me that he got so much more than what his estimated market value was going to be, almost double what the estimations were. I think you mentioned earlier somebody reported 5 and 60, 65 was about what he was expected to command, and yet he got 6 and 113, which is a lot more average annual value and a bigger number and more years. And so part of that is the fact that it must have been a competitive landscape for the player and also the Scott Boras factor. But that gives me even more reason to applaud Farhan Zaidi because it feels like there was somewhat of a bidding war and there were multiple suitors involved. And yet Farhan and company stepped up and had the best, most attractive offer or were able to sell the player on whatever he needed to hear to get him to agree to come to the Giants, and that's big for Farhan.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. We'd love to take some calls on that. Did this do anything for you with regard to your perception of the team, the front office, what have you? I look at it from that perspective. I have no idea what this is going to do baseball-wise. I have no idea, and I'm fully aware that almost every fan out there loves the fact that the second part of his first name is who, because that's actually what the average sports fan is saying. Who? We're supposed to be excited about this, right? He's not Cody Bellinger. He doesn't have MVP votes in the rearview mirror, an MVP award in the rearview mirror in Major League Baseball. He doesn't have any of those things. I totally understand that. I feel about this much more in terms of a concept, in terms of a vibe, those kinds of words. We're talking about the things that Giants fans have been feeling recently, which is an inferiority complex. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And it's understandable. It's somewhere between an inferiority complex and a total rejection of the front office. And I get it. I completely get it. But I've never bought that take all those things and let them get you to the spot where you're like, no one's going to ever choose here. As if this whole thing has just crumbled to the ground. I've never thought it was that serious.
I don't think it had ever gotten that bad in my eyes.
It feels that way. The way a lot of people talk, even now, the YouTube feed right now, they got him, but they're not getting anybody else. It's like, oh my God.
Well, even part of that too is you don't know who this guy is. And yes,
sure.
6 years, $113 million. So even if you've never seen him play, and I've never seen him play, you showed me a highlight earlier of him hitting a home run and eyeing it and pimping it and staring at it. And then he absolutely spikes the baseball bat like George Kittle after a touchdown reception. It's like, all right. I like this guy.
Yep.
I like him more and more, but we haven't seen him. We don't know if he's any good, but the fact that they spent 6 years and $113 million on him tells me that they're serious about having this guy be a cornerstone for the future. But I understand what fans are saying and feeling in terms of nobody's going to come here because nobody had come here. And Carlos Correa was an oddity because he apparently chose to come here and then was rejected in the 11th hour when his family was here. And that to me was even more of an embarrassment on the organization, whether they were right or they were wrong. The fact that the kid came out here with his family and he was about to be introduced and then wasn't, that whole thing to me was a bad look for the Giants. And that feeds into the feelings of no one's going to come here and this regime can't get it done. And woe is us. Attendance is down. Homelessness is up. This team is mediocre. This team is boring and all the rest of it. It all feeds into itself. And now today, with this signing, you start to move away from that and you start to feel like this team is going in a direction that it should have been all along.
By the way, another aspect of today's news I think that'd be interesting is to find out from fans if y'all accept the way that the Ohtani thing went down. And I'm not here to argue whether or not it was a loss. It was a loss. The organization went for him, and they didn't get him. But what Farhan Zaidi shared today, and instead of rolling through quotes, we'll just kind of
Yeah, paraphrase,
we'll sum it up for you, that this is essentially what was said, that Shohei presented to teams the framework of a deal simply to find out if they were agreeable to it. In other words, this is what we want to do. 10 years, $700 million. We'll defer $680 million, $2 million a year. Will you do that? And that was offered to the Giants. And the Giants said, you're damn right we will do that. Okay? So did the Dodgers, and presumably so did a few other teams, even though I cannot confirm that. I would imagine, did the Blue Jays do that? Probably. I don't know. But it doesn't matter for our purposes. The Giants said yes. So could they have, were they even given the option? I see a debate going on now. Well, go to 750. Go to 800. Were you even given that option? I don't know. But the $700 million idea was presented to the Giants. The Giants said yes. And in the end, they felt they only got beat out by geography. Now, it's probably a little deeper than that. Shohei has a better chance to win next year with the Dodgers rather than the Giants. He's got a better chance to hit more home runs at Dodger Stadium than he does at Oracle Park. And he doesn't have to move. And he does love the beach. Those are some of the things we know.
We got beaches. Cold. Ocean
Lord.
Beach today.
Good Lord.
Woo.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do you accept it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you accept for whatever it's worth, that the Giants came to the party and were ready to roll with $700 million?
You have to accept it. If they were willing to go to $700 million and defer $680 of it and pay him $2 million a year and defer the rest of it till 2034, if they were willing to do that and other teams were willing to do that and he chose LA and all the offers were exactly the same, well, what are you supposed to do? And, if you offer him $750 million, maybe he still doesn't go to the Giants. Maybe he still goes to LA for $700, or maybe LA ponies up $750. I don't think that you got to the point where money was the issue. Ohtani presents an offer of, look, I want $700. I'm willing to take 20 now and $680 later. Who's in? And this is my offer. This is what I'm going to go with. Yes. Yeah, all of them. And if you have 5 teams say yes, then he chooses LA. What are you going to do? It's just the way that one went.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably he was going to go to LA no matter what.
I feel like saying something and then ducking.
I'm not going to throw anything at you.
I think the offseason's off to a great start.
Okay.
It is.
You might want to duck.
Do you agree with me?
It's off to an okay start. I mean, we don't know. This might be a grotesque overpay.
Well,
this might be the Korean equivalent of Barry Zito.
Of course.
7 and 126. But we don't know.
That could be true for Ohtani as well. And nobody in LA is like, well, I don't know if it's a great start. No. It's
$2 million a year.
It's a great start. Well,
I mean, seriously.
But it's not.
Giants are paying Yaz more than they're paying Ohtani.
Understood for now, but there is another way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that your Ohtani deal is now going to potentially affect the financial outlook for that team for 20 years, not 10. I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. Believe me, that will come up down the road. I know that we have this perception about these teams out here that it's just like they're cash registers and they'll do absolutely whatever and they'll just keep spending. And it's not really accurate. Like, one of the reasons the Dodgers were prepared for this is because they've been preparing for this for the last 3 years. They knew that they wanted Shohei Ohtani, and they have lowered their books. They've absolutely lowered their books. Look at their starting rotation. Look at the way they've handled all things not named Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman.
Right.
Like, they did. They cut payroll, and it was to prepare for this moment. So will the Dodgers be in a situation, it's not till 10 years from now, so who cares? But that's going to be a part of their financial structure, and it's going to be at a time where they're not getting any baseball in return for $70 million a year. That's a thing. It won't be on their payroll, but that's a thing.
And I wonder if it is actually payment that they're going to have to make, or if it's just something that they can work out in terms of, you get 3% of the team now instead of us giving you $68 million over the course of the next 10 years. We'll give you a $680 million lump sum in terms of ownership.
I don't know if they're allowed to do that because that feels to me like a baseball restructure, which you're not allowed to do.
Right, but they could they could do a handshake agreement where they write him a check for $680 and he turns around and writes them a check back for $680 to buy into the team.
Yeah.
He gets 10% of the Dodgers or something, whatever that number would be. So it's not going to be necessarily that they have to shell out $68 million a year for 10 years. I mean, they might, and I don't know what the tax ramifications will be for Shohei therein. But one thing we do know is it seems like a brilliant move on both sides. The Dodgers can still add Yamamoto or other free agents because of the relatively low hit that this salary is going to be on their tax.
Or I could argue so can the Giants. I mean, we sit here and talk about this being a major deal just because it's sort of like through the eyes of what we've experienced with the Farhan Zaidi era. But $19 million a year, guy's barely making more than Conforto.
I was going to say it's Conforto and Haniger, right?
It's no big deal.
He's making less than Logan Webb, isn't he?
This does not get in the way of anything.
Yeah.
With regard to what the Giants can do financially going forward.
Absolutely.
So, I want to make sure that that's clear as well. That's why I called it an excellent start. It is only that. It is just a start. If anybody thinks that, you should be excited if the Giants come back now in spring and they're like, look, we've got Jung-Hoo Lee. No. This better just be the beginning. But I think it's a very good beginning. I accept their answer on Shohei. They gave him a nod. They said, yes, we'll do that deal. Shohei chose the Dodgers. That's no surprise. Next best thing, in my opinion, is Yamamoto. That's still on the table. And the next best thing after that, according to them, they wanted a young, controllable, very, very good defensive center fielder that they could put out there every day. This was the guy they targeted, and they got him. I think this is a really good start.
That's a good start. Yeah, it's a good little start, Mart. Good little start is what we'll call it. And, we'll see what else is to follow. I just think about what they face in their own division, and the Dodgers are the big blue monster in terms of trying to play catch up, and you probably won't be able to catch up to them on paper in one off season. And then I look at Arizona, a team that actually went further than any other team in your own division, and they're still young athletic, and exciting. And then I look at the San Diego Padres.
They just added another starter, too.
Who'd they add?
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So Arizona's getting better. Dodgers are getting better. And the Padres, they wound up at the end of last year. They ended up with a better record than the Giants because they finally figured out what they were doing down there.
Yeah, but they're going to lose their Cy Young Award-winning pitcher.
Right, and they lost Soto.
And they're going to lose Hader.
They're probably going to lose Hader.
Yeah.
So the Padres aren't going to be necessarily as good, but they're still formidable.
No, they're very good, but they also, by the way, badly wanted Jung-Hoo Lee, who's now a Giant. I'll say this. If I'm the Giants, here's what I'm hell-bent on next. And you can't be hell-bent on Yamamoto because he might say no. Even though I would do exactly what the Giants did sort of loosely promise. They didn't promise it, but the reports are out there that in going after their top targets, the Giants will not be outbid. And I do think they've kept that promise so far. Obviously, they did not get outbid for Jung-Hoo Lee. And they did not get outbid for Shohei Ohtani because I don't think there was ever any bidding. He simply said, here's the deal, who wants me? And the Giants said, we do. And then he picked the Dodgers. Fine. But if the promise was we will not be outbid, then that needs to flow for Yamamoto as well. Do not be outbid. If you lose him, just don't be outbid.
Yeah.
And if you lose him, you got to pivot and go get one of the other guys. And if that means Snell or Jordan Montgomery or whatever, they need to be a more solidified group as a starting rotation because the days of we're pulling you after 4 innings because someone said so. Those days are over, and this group says they want more from their starting pitchers, and Alex Cobb is hurt. You need starting pitchers. And by the way, I could argue that is how you can still win this division. The Los Angeles Dodgers have a lineup that is absurd. Now tell me about their rotation. I don't know if Julio Urias is ever going to be allowed in baseball again.
Right.
Clayton Kershaw looks about done. Walker Buehler coming off a TJ, we'll see. What's their rotation? You can build to your ballpark and still build something formidable by having a top rotation in the division. Diamondbacks is good. Padres, they took a hit. Dodgers, they're getting a double hit. Rockies, are you kidding me?
Right.
They play in Denver.
Well, and that's what the Giants have to do, in my opinion.
You've got to do it. You've got to go get a top-line starter.
You've got to build your ballpark or your team to fit your ballpark. And it's like when we talk about football and Kyle Shanahan and his scheme, your offense has to fit your personnel. Your personnel has to fit your scheme. And that's where Kyle Shanahan has been so good with his use of the fullback and his use of tight ends. And you have two very good receivers that you rely on. You don't use three a lot and all the rest of it. And so when you have the Giants ballpark and it's a pitcher-friendly park, then go out and get pitchers. And we talk about the World Series runs. When they won the World Series in 10, 12, and 14, they had very good pitching, and they played very good defense. And then they came up with a lot of timely hitting, and they were able to add some bats at some deadlines and the rest of it. And that was enough to get them over the hump. And that's the way I think you have to build it again.
I smell trades, man. We're so focused on free agency, and I think that there is going to be at least one we can feel it trade from the San Francisco Giants, and I cannot wait to see who it is. I know that when you do that, our minds immediately go to Pete Alonso, but I'm sure it goes way, way further than that. And it's a weapon that the Giants are going to have to use, especially because of this ballpark. You know, you see someone like Jung-Hoo Lee, he may look at this ballpark and go, that's an advantage. He's got speed, he's left-handed, and he's a gap-to-gap hitter. He's probably looking at Triples Alley going,
yes, please.
Cast me out one time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But the Harpers and the Ohtanis of the world don't like that. So fine, trade for them. Trade for them. I don't know who beyond Alonso is available, but I guarantee you the names are out there. And so it's a top-line starter. It's definitely another middle-of-the-order bat. And then it's probably even some tinkering beyond that. It's probably tinkering even at the I think they like their rotation depth, but it's tinkering with the bullpen a little bit more. You know what I mean? Some late-inning stuff alongside Doval wouldn't hurt. You're starting to see teams go, no, not one closer. Let's do two.
Yeah.
Let's have a lefty to go with your righty. Okay. Do all of that.
Well, especially now that your starting pitcher is going to get you through 6 if you're lucky, for the most part.
I hope, yeah.
You know, you're looking at a bullpen where you might need 3 to 5 guys every game to get from the 6th through the 9th. So you need a closer in the 8th and you need a closer in the 9th if you're doing it right, to your point, and matching up with a lefty to be able to go to a lefty early, or you go to Doval early, however you want to match it up down the stretch. And that's when the Giants were at their best last year, is when they had a lot of viable arms in the back end of the pen.
Well, and you know, look, they know more than we do with regard to how things are developing down low, but are some of those guys in the minors, the Carson Wisenhunts of the world, like, are they going to be ready to roll? How are they feeling about Kyle Harrison? But if Cobb is going to be healthy a month in, you've got Webb. If they love Harrison, if they sign Yamamoto or Snell or Jordan Montgomery, and then you're backfilling after that with some of the other players. You know, DeSclafani comes back. I know that tightens every shoulder up, but you know what I mean? Like, you start to have some of those names come in and succeed, then in this ballpark, come on, we know how it works. We've watched this forever.
Right.
That works. If you pitch in that ballpark, you go to the playoffs.